We're going to show you a method that is virtually costless. I mean, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but compared to actually using Wix or a third-party platform, it costs way less. And then we're going to actually show you guys how to develop the site into something and design it into something that will actually convert. Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a digital marketing special in our Ask the Expert series. This is going to be a really good one. I always enjoy doing these. You're in very good hands. Today we're going to be showing you how to actually build a website on your own in an inexpensive method, basically going to the core of building a website rather than just using WordPress or Wix or something that's going to charge you an arm and a leg. We're going to show you a method that is virtually costless. I mean, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but compared to actually using Wix or a third-party platform, it costs way less. And then we're going to actually show you guys how to develop the site into something and design it into something that will actually convert. So today's going to be awesome. We're going to do it right in front of you guys. We're going to have a how-to demonstration. It's an exciting day in Ask the Experts world. So we're going to go ahead and get started in a few minutes. Before we get started on the dot, I'll just give ourselves a brief introduction. My name is Nick. You guys have seen both of us before hosting these. So prior to working at My State MLS, which is where I currently am, I ran a digital marketing firm for a handful of years. We specialized in building and developing websites and marketing processes for mortgage companies. I've brought in leads for billions and billions of dollars worth of loans. I've worked with hundreds of different companies in the real estate space. I've built hundreds of websites in the real estate space. And prior to that, I had corporate marketing experience with State Farm and SunPower and a handful of large nationwide companies that you can just name drop. But that being said, you're in very good hands. Bruce here, I'll allow him to introduce himself as well, but he's also a member of our My State MLS marketing team, and he helped create and develop large, I don't know how many clients he was working with at any time, but an SEO.
About 150.
Yeah, so what did you do over there with that company?
So, just to be brief, we built it from the ground up. It was me and another guy. And we built it from, I think we had 3 clients when we first started, out of a broom closet to roughly 150 to 175. And that ranged from Lamborghini to Ronnie Coleman, who was like Mr. Olympia for 8 years, I think. And Ferrari, Aloft Hotels, Old Homestead Steakhouse. There are several. So we got them to show up in the top of the first page of Google more often than not. And then developed a web development company within that business model, and then added a sister hosting company that we built ourselves to try and serve our customers better.
Very nice. Very nice. So all of that to say, you guys are in very good hands. We've been doing this for a long time, and we're going to show you the most cost-effective and the most productive way to actually develop these sites. So we'll go ahead and get started. It's 11 o'clock here. If anyone comes in late, we'll have a replay online available for everyone in the audience. And let's get started here. So today, we're going to be going over how to own your own name and brand. And we're going to be talking about website design and development and the importance of it. And then we're going to actually walk you through the best method to do that. We're going to discuss what your website needs as either an agent, a team, or a real estate company. We're going to talk about mobile first design, effective landing pages, and then we're going to wrap it up and talk about the bigger picture of what we're looking at and what the goal of digital marketing for you and your business is and should be. All right. So, owning your name and brand. As a real estate agent, if you haven't done any of these things, then we're just listing some of the different efforts and some of the online presence that you should have in order to grow and establish your business. First of all, you should always purchase your name.com. Bruce is going to show you how to do that, or some type of realtor version, variation, brand name, something that you are proud to own and will stick with you forever. So for me, I own nickmcelmurray.com. I own nicholasmcelmurray.com. I don't really do anything with them, but I have in the past when I'm trying to market myself and promote myself, right? So this is going to do a lot for you, but most importantly, if you do want to put a website up, you will be very visible compared to if your website wasn't just your name, right? Or your team's name or whatever it may be. Then you're going to want to use that domain and create an email with it, right? So sending an email from nicktherealtor@gmail.com, right, is not going to come off as professional or be as effective as something like, Nick at XYZ Realty, Nick at My State MLS, right? And having that domain name and then utilizing it in your email communications, it costs usually, $5 a month for a really basic plan. It costs what a Netflix account would cost to appear professional and make sure that you're engaging with people as a professional in the business, which is very important because you want to stand out as the real estate leader to your clients and potential prospects, right? I'm sure many of you guys are on social media already. If you're not on social media, I would just start with 1 to 2 social media accounts. People can get very overwhelmed with it. But one thing that I'll say about social media, where a lot of people miss the ball, I recommend creating accounts based on the communities that you're trying to serve, right? So you can have a Facebook page. Let's say that I were an active realtor, which I do have. I do have a real estate license in the state of California, but I don't really actively participate. But let's say I were trying to build customers in San Francisco. Okay, so I'm going to create a page. I have 2 options. I'll create a Facebook page either called Nick, the San Francisco Realtor, or I could create a Facebook page called San Francisco Events. Fun things in San Francisco, things to do San Francisco, business owners San Francisco, creating a page around the community itself, around content that serves that area. So you're still targeting that area specifically, but it makes it more involved than just you, right? I mean, people, in all reality, your friends and family and your people connected on social, they care about what's going on in your personal life. But if you're trying to use social media to prospect and get new customers, a stranger doesn't care. I mean, let's be real. I don't want to be too blunt about it, but if I'm just McElmurray the realtor, I mean, someone has never heard my name. They just don't care. But if it's all about what's going on in my local community, then it's a lot easier to get people interested and engaged and sharing events and interviewing local business owners and doing things that actually cultivate and matter to the community. That is the best approach for social media for a realtor or anyone in the real estate space. Then you can utilize people being engaged in that content. You can utilize the following you have to promote yourself and to promote your business, but keeping it about the community and making sure you're always adding value on that social page, right? So start with 1 to 2 because ultimately that style of social media can be kind of tedious. You're always staying involved in community events. You're always keeping up to date on things. So don't overwhelm yourself with it. Don't Don't let social media become so important that it takes away from other aspects of business and other things you've been doing that work for your business. All right. Next, create a free blogging account. You can use ActiveRain. There are so many different blogging options out there for you, and you can actually even combine the two. You can post about an event on your pages and then post about it on your blog as well. Simple as that. And then this last tip, before we get into the heart and meat and actually develop this website itself, this last tip is super important if you haven't done it. Create a Google My Business account for yourself, right? So if you look up, enter any topic here. If you look up haircuts in enter your city, the top results are always based on a Google My Business profile. Someone entered their business, created their information, created their profile, and then they push to get reviews. And those reviews and the amount that page is filled out determines who shows and in what ranking they show. So if someone,
Not to cut you off on that too
yeah,
much, but so you also want to get citations or mentions or links from other sources, whether they're directories or forums. Um, Really, how often your Google Business profile is cited and the authority behind those citations is what's going to help propel you, in addition to the reviews, in addition to the content that's on there. But the content and the reviews are, I would say, step one and two, and then getting those citations is probably step three. Because if you just do the reviews and the content, you might be in the top 10, you might be in the top 20 or top 30, but it's really probably not going to push you over the edge because of the age of your account. So getting cited or mentioned from other authority figures, it's at that point, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
totally. That's a great point. And especially taking those extra steps and going above and beyond is more important than ever. Both Bruce and I were involved in marketing and SEO before it was a hot topic. I remember back in the day how easy it was to become one of those first, second rankings on a Google search. Oh, man. And you know what? Maybe some of you guys, if you're in a rural market, that opportunity is still there. But for now, for the most part, there are 3 or 4 agents who have already been doing this, already killing it. So you working towards that, getting to rank number 4, 5, 6, building your niche, building your online brand, making your website that's attractive and gets people to buy from you when they actually search it, right? Those steps are all more important than ever. So that being said, let me go ahead, click over to the next slide. All right, so why you need a website. I'm just going to gloss over this very, very briefly because, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We understand why you need a website these days, right? So you need a website because then you can control your own narrative, right? When someone searches you or your business, you want to be in full control of exactly what they see, okay? If you're representing a buyer or seller, you need to make sure that it's going to be very professional and it is going to appeal to the specific niche that you're trying to target. Like, are you looking for people moving to your state, right? That needs to have its own page. It needs to be clear. Creating a website helps with the SEO that we mentioned before. It will help your page, your website, your presence rank when people are looking for your services in that particular area. And owning a website allows you to create a sales message and share your value proposition more easily. Now, that's actually a small moment where I'll take a pause and really ask you guys a question, and whether it's rhetorical or not, I want you to think about it. What is your value proposition as a real estate professional, right? And by value proposition, what I mean is, what are you offering that other people in your area are not? And that's a tough question because as a real estate professional, I know in your heads, a lot of you guys are thinking, I'm a real estate agent. Like, I'm a realtor. I'm doing everything that person is doing, right? But that's why I encourage you to think about it long and hard, because adding additional value, whether that be giving a mild discount in certain scenarios, whether that be creating drone footage videos of people's properties, right? Think of your value proposition. Think of something that makes you different and better than your competitors in the market, and then play to that, right? People know the basics of what a real estate professional should do by now. So what are you doing to exceed expectations? That's what value is. Value isn't meeting expectations. Value is exceeding expectations. So what do you do that exceeds what people expect from their real estate agent? Right? So think about that. Once we're finished with this call and we show you how to develop websites and do all this fun stuff, take a moment and think about what you bring to the table beyond what other people are doing. All right? And then the last reason you need a website is because having a website and different landing pages, it unlocks a gambit of different marketing techniques, advertisement techniques, and different methods that you can use to actually acquire new customers and new prospects. Right now, the more traditional routes of getting customers and prospects, we have really great content on that with Coach Willie Miranda. That's available on our site, on YouTube. However, there are a lot of modern techniques of advertising and promotion that require you to have specific landing pages for those campaigns, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end and rounding everything together and bringing it all full circle. But for now, that's all I'll say is, a website's important because you want to be able to send people to an appropriate targeted landing page. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Bruce, and he's going to share his screen and actually show you guys how to go in, buy your domain, start building up your website, and how to do it in a super cost-effective way. So I'm going to stop sharing right now, and go ahead and take it over, Bruce.
So the first, let me see, let's do this. So we're going to share, I have a couple screens open, but we're going to share this screen to start. This is Namecheap. Namecheap is kind of my go-to. A lot of people will use GoDaddy, or they'll use, there are a number of them, one-on-one, web.com, so on and so forth. But in my experience, and this goes about a decade and a half of experience in this field, Namecheap has been by far the cheapest. It's kind of a no BS situation. You're not going to get overcharged when you go with GoDaddy or one of these other companies. GoDaddy specifically is kind of like Facebook. They will actually monitor your keystrokes. So if you are kind of playing back and forth in your mind, well, do I want this domain or do I want that domain? And you've typed it out a few different times, you've searched it, you've looked at it, you've salivated over it. GoDaddy will actually turn around and jack the price up on you in some cases. They'll say, okay, well, this domain is now getting more action or more interest or there's more intrigue to it. So we need to raise our rates, just like most, commercial or retail companies would do. But in this case, they can monitor it without telling you they're monitoring it, and then they will raise the rate on you. Namecheap's not going to do anything like that. They're also very good with customer support. You shouldn't have any major issues with them, and the price is going to be cheap. Like, you could search something like, I am a great agent.com, and it's going to give you, okay, well, it's verifying that I'm a human, apparently, and not a robot. Once it does that, there we go. Sorry. So $9.98, not a bad deal. Now you'll see something for maybe $9.98 or $15 on GoDaddy or one of these other, what we call registrars. That's what this would be called. It's a registered agent. They'll provide you with your domain names. But then year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, it'll go from 15 to 20 to 100 to 110. And even in some cases, it might not even have that progression. It may just start off at a high price. In this case, with Namecheap, I can't tell you. I've been using them for 15 years, and I think the most I've ever paid for a domain is $14. So it's something to keep in mind.
And just to note, for people who don't see the screen, that's per year, right? That's not
$40
a month.
So I'll put that in the chat for you guys, and you can check that out whenever you'd like. Now, the next thing, and this is the first company that I worked with, well, not the first, but one of the first companies that I worked with as far as hosting was concerned, and it was HostGator. Now, if you're an agent and you're just starting out, or even if you're not just starting out and you've been an agent for a while and you have a single website, you really don't need to spend more than $375 a month, which I know sounds a little crazy because GoDaddy, the prices are not even close to this. But with HostGator, I would actually go with what they call the baby plan. It gives you the ability to have two websites on there. You can create as many what we would call subdomains as possible. And you've got 20 gigs on a solid state drive storage. So you won't have any problems with, I mean, most websites are going to be between 500 megabytes and a gig and a half at the most. So you can put up as many pictures and photos and as much different stuff as you want. You would go into this process, you click on the tab, and you would either enter the domain that you have, which is up here, if you already own the domain. If you're registering a new domain and you want to buy it through them, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend because I've never purchased a domain directly from that hosting provider, and they probably also purchase it from a subsidiary or a third party. I don't believe that HostGator is a registrar. There are very few of them out there. I actually think GoDaddy owns a registrar. They're not a registrar themselves. But you can choose your monthly cycle. You can choose pretty much everything. Name, billing address you put in there. Additional services, the backup I would do, it's $20 annually. Everything else I would leave alone. Yoast is an old SEO tool that became very popular for a long time, and in my opinion, it's very heavy. It'll weigh down your site, it'll slow things down, and it doesn't have as much versatility as some of the other plugins that I've tested, and I've probably used 30 different SEO plugins over my time in the industry. SSL certificate, I would definitely do. This used to be $150, which was nice. A long time ago, it was $150 per SSL. Now you can do it for $333 a month or $40 a year, and that'll cover any other sites that you build within your control panel, your server, what you're renting. And the other thing is you don't own your server. You're going to rent or lease a space on a shared server. So what they do is they separate the server into partitions like you would land. Same kind of concept. And you will have a piece of that land within the server to utilize for however long, just like renting an apartment. I know I jumped around there a little bit, but I think you get the idea. So once you create all of this, and it has you auto paying for 36 months, you could always change that to, just do 12 months, right? That's going to dramatically change your price. So it's $100 for the year, basically. Maybe a little bit more if you had the backup and you had a couple other things, but still, overall, that's not bad. And you can add multiple websites to this plan. You can also add what we call a subdomain, which is like a shop.nfl.com. That's a subdomain. The shop is a subdomain of nfl.com. So you can put as many of those in there as you'd want. You could create separate websites within those subdomains, and you could have anywhere from 10 to 20 different sites trying to feed you leads and building your business through this one relatively small plan and be covered for the year. Once you've done that, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we'll talk about creating your domain name so once you have HostGator set up, you're going to go into what we call a cPanel. Now, in this case, we're using A2 just because it's a pre-set up cPanel, and I'm not paying for HostGator at this point. This is basically what your cPanel is going to look like, or control panel. Your control panel is where everything is done. You can set up your email accounts. You can go and add analytics. You can check all of your files. You can look into the databases. And if you get real brave, you can go in here and take a look around. I would not advise it. It's a little bit tricky in there. You can add your new domains. You can do redirects. You can see some data and some analytics. You can add some security. There are additional features and functions. And by the way, the HostGator cPanel will look almost identical to this, and it will have very similar features and functions. It just may be laid out slightly different. But overall, if you landed on HostGator cPanel, or you land on A2 cPanel, or you land on GoDaddy cPanel, they're all very similar. They all have a lot of the same options. And this is really just an ease of use portal for you. So to go back into this, you have different software applications. So now, once again, it can be a little overwhelming, but in this case, we're going to go to WordPress optimized. In other cases, you might go to Soft Delicious Apps Installer, or I'm sorry, Softaculous, as it was corrected to me the other day, and I've been calling it Soft Delicious for 10 years. But Softaculous Apps Installer, and that normally will take you to something like this, which is another portal, right? Like you can get lost down this rabbit hole pretty quickly. But to back out of this a little bit, we would use the A2 optimized portal to get in here. Now, I actually don't use A2 optimized. Once again, they're trying to add a bunch of extra stuff that you don't need. So this is a very basic way to do this. And it's the cleanest way to do this, because you can always, it's easier to add than it is to subtract a lot of times in websites, or with plugins, or with features and functions and things of that nature. So in this case, we're going to hover up here to WordPress Manager. I'm going to go into WordPress Manager, and we're going to create either a subdomain or we've already created a domain. But in this case, we would you would go in, you would create your domain back in the dashboard, which I can do real quick for you. So you would go and you create a domain here, and let's just, so we'll just say blog.ella.
And here they would be typing in the domain that they just purchased through Namecheap.
Right. So you would purchase your domain, purchase your hosting. Once you're in the cPanel or the control panel, you would then go to the domains section. And from the domain section, you would then type in what domain you want. And what I'm creating right now is a subdomain, which is a way to, once again, segment or separate one from the other. So if you wanted it to be two separate sites, which I would recommend doing if you have a lot of content that you want to push. It also gives you some SEO ability that you don't normally have when you do an alabamastatemls.com/blog, or iamagreatagent.com/blog. So in this case, I'm just going to create a subdomain just so I could show you guys. But in your case, you're probably just going to put in yourdomain.com. So we'll create it. And so now that that's been created, we can go back to the cPanel or the control panel. We'll go in through A2 optimized at this time. I'll then go up to WordPress Manager. And now this is the WordPress Manager. These are all the different websites that we've installed for this hosting account. We've got hundreds more, but we'll click on Install. We'll go over here to the setup. And now it should be listed in here, the subdomain that we created, right? So in this case, Alabama State MLS is, I think I lost the sharing option. Oh, there we go. Is it working now? So Alabama State MLS will be listed in here. It's listed at the bottom. I don't think you can see it, but you'll see that it has changed. So I don't think Riverside accounts for drop-down or accordion menus. So in this case, just assume that I clicked on it. There it is. It's listed right there. You'll scroll down and you'll add your admin username. And in our case, we'll use, my state. Right, and then your password will be located here. Or actually, let me do this. I'm just going to do Yeah. And then you put in your admin email. In this case, we'll put mine. You're going to title your blog or your website in this case. Now your title and your description, it's going to be the title and the description of your site that's going to show up in Google. So that's actually the blue text and black text, or the blue link and the black text that you will see in the Google search results. So when you go to type in, and this might take a little while from you purchasing your domain, building your site, to it actually showing up in Google, which we can go into in another topic as far as adding analytics and making things index. I think that would be probably a good thing for us to talk about in the future. But you'll go down, you'll fill out all this information. I would leave all of this alone. This is generally going to show up. These are like recommended plugins that you could use. We can also show you in another section some other recommended plugins. We could also do another video on that. But I would add maybe the file manager at the absolute most. And then once again, you'll expand your advanced options. Now, I do this myself just to make things a little bit easier, because if I have an issue with something, and because we can go into the databases and we can play around with stuff if we need to, I think this is a little more advanced than what you'll probably need to do, but just as a rule of thumb, I will title it something relative to that website. So in this case, it was blog Alabama MLS or stateMLS.com. So I would do like BAL, because that's, our blog and Alabama State MLS. It usually can't be more than, I think, 5 or 6 letters, something to that effect. And then we will also, I would leave all this alone. I do make some modifications to this, but I think this is probably your safest bet to not go too far and become too dangerous. So we'll install WordPress. Takes a few minutes sometimes. Sometimes it can take a few seconds. It's taking longer than it normally does, but.
So then once it's installed and ready to go, then they're able to just take the username and password they created, type in the domain that they were looking for. So IamAGreatAgent.com. Oh, it's finished. So you can actually show it. But IamAGreatAgent.com/WP-admin.
Yep.
And log in.
And so now we would click on, in our case, it's the blog.Alabama State MLS. But it might take a second for this to finish processing. Eventually, this will show up, probably in the next minute or two. There it is. So
yeah, it does not help that your computer is handling a lot all at once. And it looked like Bruce and his screen has potentially froze. So, because that's the case, I will go ahead and take over real fast. I'm going to, oh, he is screen sharing. So let me just explain it. I'll put it in the chat. Once you are finished, once all of that is developed and you've taken those steps, then you go to the particular domain that you were wanting, that you just created, and you're going to add this afterwards. /WP-admin. And then it will take you to a login screen where you're going to use the characters that you actually just created, the username and the password that you just created. And you're going to log in, and it'll take you to a WordPress panel. So let me go ahead and share my screen and show you a little bit about what the WordPress panel looks like. And apologies for the delay here. Let's go. So we just logged into a particular state MLS. And this is what your WordPress dashboard looks like. There are a handful of things that you can do. There are a lot of different plugins that you can utilize once you're in WordPress. This is exactly what your dashboard looks like if you were to just go through and pay WordPress to build a site without doing all of those steps. Now, the difference is the way that we just showed you how to do it is how professionals do it that then resell websites, because it ends up costing you $100 a year Netflix account, where WordPress itself is going to charge far more than that if you use their streamlined way to do it. So what we just showed you is a way that you can actually build dozens of websites for the cost of one, if that, right? So this is kind of the professional approach and what people do when they resell websites, right? So we're trying to give you the best, highest quality information possible. Now, when you're actually in your WordPress backend, there are plenty of things that you can do, right? You have different plugins that you can go to. Plugins are different apps on your site that will do different tools, so you can play around with that. And then different pages. You create pages that people can then see and utilize. So one thing that I'll mention, the one plugin that we'll go over very, very briefly here is it's actually a series of plugins. They are design management plugins, right? And there are a lot of free options, right? So when you actually want to go and start building your website, we're assuming that you don't have HTML, CSS knowledge, right? So if you want to be able to go in and actually design in a drag and drop method your own website, I'd recommend a handful of different plugins, right? So there's Elementor is the one on these sites. Personally, my favorite is Beaver Builder. I know that Bruce likes one called WordPress Bakery, WP Bakery. There are a handful of different design plugins. And what they allow you to do, so let me show you Elementor real fast, right? So if you're on your pages here, then we can go to this home page, right? Or, contact us page, whatever page we want. And you can click edit with Elementor rather than just edit. If you just go edit, then it's going to take you to an HTML version where you have to type in literal HTML. So, but having Elementor, you can then open Elementor or WordPress Bakery or Beaver Builder or whatever design plugin you want to use. And then it's far more straightforward to actually edit the content, right? It's gonna take a second to load here because it's both streaming and handling these things, right? So you're gonna have this very straightforward drag and drop style. Like, oh, I want to add a header right here. I want to add an image. I want to add a video. I want to add a button, right? And then you can just simply drag and drop wherever you want to add it. So there are a ton of different plugins that give you more straightforward design choices. Elementor is just one of them, but you can use any. Then you'd go in, update it, and voila. So that is the extent, though. We're not going to dive too deep into plugins. I just wanted to show you design plugins so you can get started straight out of the gate. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. I think I hear that Bruce is back. Welcome back, Bruce.
Got me back. Yeah, sorry, the internet decided to
No,
go.
I get it. Streaming plus creating a domain. I mean, you're working your computer for sure. But so what I just did is I hopped in, I showed them WP admin and basic backend dashboard. We showed them a design plugin, and I gave them a few different options, which I'll go ahead and put the options in the chat real fast. So there's Beaver Builder, Elementor, and your favorite is WordPress Bakery, right, Bruce?
Yeah, I like WordPress Bakery just because it gives you a lot more to utilize.
Yeah, totally. So it's kind of like ease of use, right? Personally, starting with Elementor, if you're just building your first site ever, That's all you need. And then as you get more advanced and you want to look at
Yeah.
different options, I mean, I definitely think that Beaver Builder and WordPress Bakery do a better job at giving you more options to play with and more tools in your development tool and design tool belt. So,
Yeah. Basically, if you want to know everything there is to know about WordPress, then WordPress Bakery is something you probably want to try out at some point, or Beaver Builder.
all
But
right,
Elementor is a good start.
all right. So, Bruce, did you have any? Were there any other steps that you wanted to really show 'em?
Um, so, I mean, the only thing that we were doing is we were going to log into, and ironically, those domains we created are now working fine. But we were just going to log in and look around. So I think you did that pretty much.
Cool, cool. Yeah. And please, as we go into the rest of some of this presentation, we're going to talk about some landing page fundamentals and some other very important things. But if you have any questions about that process that Bruce just took you through, it is a lot. It is dense. It's a bit more technical, right? If money isn't an option and you never want to learn, or if money isn't a question and you aren't interested in learning this stuff on a deeper level, you can just go to Wix or something and just pay an arm and a leg and be able to build a website through the main platform. But this is definitely how professionals do it, to be able to build dozens of websites for a very cost effective way. So we're really giving you the inside scoop here.
Right. Yeah, and also note that Squarespace and Wix and things like that, they cannot leave Wix or Squarespace or anything along those lines. WordPress can go from hosting company to hosting company if you want, or Drupal or Joomla, any of these other content management systems. They're not, they are proprietary software, but not in the sense where they cannot be moved or migrated. So, like, let's say you don't like your hosting company. If you don't like Squarespace, you have to rebuild your website from the ground up. If you don't like Wix, you have to rebuild your website from the ground up. Same thing with Shopify. If you don't like it, you're either stuck with it or you have to start all over again to a certain degree. When you do WordPress or Joomla or Drupal or any of these other what we call open source platforms, um, you really have more versatility and the ability to, pick and choose what works for you.
Thank you. Very nice. So now the basics, what your website needs. This is pretty basic compared to all the technicals that we just went over. However, obviously your name, your logo, your brand, everything about it. Your listings, that happens through IDX. So go to your local or reach out to us, MyState, to get an IDX feed of your properties and properties in your area so that you can post it on your site. Needs all your contact information, right? Obvious stuff here. Names and photos of anybody on your team or in your company, right? The more reasons you can add content, the better. The larger the site, as long as it's unique content, the larger the site, the better it will read from Google, by Google's and Bing's and any search results algorithm, right? You want as many opportunities and as big of a site as possible, so Google knows that you guys are serious, right? But it has to be unique content. It cannot be spam. These algorithms, once upon a time, this is another back in the day kind of analogy. When Bruce and I were getting started, I remember there were so many SEO hacks where you just kind of created little spammy links all over the place, and you built out hundreds of pages with basically nothing on it, and that counted as size, and it was favored in the SEO space. But the algorithms, they're just too smart for that now. They account for those things, right? So it has to be unique quality content, usually in the form of a blog, right? So creating a blog, you would go in with your Elementor and you'd create pages around it, and or you could do it the subdomain approach, as Bruce was talking about. Lastly, landing pages, right? Landing pages are incredibly important for your website because every single campaign that you do, every single advertisement that you do has to have a unique message, a streamlined message across all platforms, and you need a landing page to do that. So, for example, if you had an advertisement that was for St. Patty's Day or for the holidays, for New Year's, that's the most recent holiday, we'll say New Year's, okay? You had an advertisement for New Year's saying, hey, for a limited time, you were going to discount your pricing just a little bit, right? And it was all based around New Year's and you're trying to motivate people. If you have that advertising going out and then you just send them to a general site that says nothing about your New Year's deal, then that's going to lose people. That's going to not have a high retention rate compared to if you have a specific landing page built for that promotion, right? So landing pages are incredibly important when you're going to run any type of digital advertisement. So the question is how do you make a good landing page? Which I'm going to go back and hit those, but this just made the most sense in process, right? So how do you actually go and make a good landing page, right? So you want to start with a hook headline, okay? In digital marketing, it's maybe a little bit of a negative analogy, but you have to try and think of consumers as fish. You have 4 or 5 seconds, you have 20 words, even less. You have 5 words to grab their attention as much as you possibly can. Okay, so you need a strong hook or headline to grab their attention right off the very bat. Okay, and if you don't have that, then your advertisement is not going to be effective. You're not going to be able to get them to engage in your call to action, right? Next, you want to declare the problem based on your value proposition, right? What are you solving? What makes you better than any other agent in the territory? Why do they have to go with you? Right? You want to make that clear. And usually you declare the problem based on like using questions, right? Making that person, that consumer, think about what is missing in their real estate experience. And then after you declare that problem, you say, yeah, it's me that's missing in your real estate experience. So you're going to solve that problem, right? So this is the formula that can be used for any industry, right? I'm using real estate because you guys are real estate professionals, right? Declare the problem, solve the problem. You can do this with videos. You can do this with images. There are plenty of different ways that you can utilize this, right? And then next, on every landing page, you need to show proof and build trust. Okay, so you do this through testimonials. You do this through talking about having different properties that you've sold recently. You do this through a handful of different methods, right? But you want to show proof and you want to build trust. Okay, and then the last thing, and it's important on any landing page with any campaign, is that you're treating marketing like a science. It's an underrated aspect of a lot of marketing. A lot of people think marketing is all design, making things pretty, making things rainbows. But good marketing is about having analytics set up and being able to see different results and test different methods and ideas and strategies in order to go with the strategies that work best for you and your market. Okay, so for A/B testing and analyzing landing pages, I'd recommend Hotjar, Hotjar. It is good on-page analytics and it's free to use, right? So if you build a website and you build a landing page and you use Google ads or you use Facebook ads to send people to that landing page, Hotjar is going to give you a clear example, or it's going to give you a heat map is what it's called, right? It's going to show you how far people scroll on their page, where people leave, which shows you where you need to improve the page, how long people stay on the page, and yeah, all of that good stuff. So Google Analytics, as Bruce just threw in the chat, very important because it's going to show you conversion rates, right? It's going to show you how people interact with the page itself. So the last thing that you need to think of in a landing page, which is not on here, is your call to action. What action do you want people to do on your page, right? It would be like selling people and not asking for the close at the end of it. Okay, so with a call to action for real estate, usually I recommend some of the classics that you guys have seen a million times, like ask me what my home is worth, right? Like, what's my home worth? Have that be a button. They give you some basic information. They send your address. You reach out to them. You give them a call afterwards, right? So different call to actions can range from, hey, sell with me. Like, it could be as direct as possible, but that's high committal. So you have to build a lot of trust if you're going to go all the way for the 9 yards. But, you know, how much is my home? How much is my home worth? Go to my community event, right? Some call to actions that basically allow you to engage with them further offline, right? Because real estate, it's a huge sale. You're not going to get around to even having a call or a Skype with them. So your call to action should be getting their information and getting them excited to talk to you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. I was Bruce, if you want to talk about mobile first for a second, or you're muted.
Yeah. So, yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. So mobile first is kind of a sexy term that people are using, but basically they want the developer to have a simplified approach initially and build their website not for desktop but for mobile, and then they can build out additional features and functions for desktop and tablets and other size screens. There's another approach that you'll hear a lot is responsive. Now, responsive is a little bit different to some degree. It's going to expand and contract the exact same features and functions on whatever size screen it is. Mobile first is more like, let's build something simple that people can use. It doesn't have to be cluttered or overwhelming. And then from there, we can add features and functions that are just seen on desktop or this size screen of tablet or laptop or what have you. So mobile first, once again, has been a sexy term that's used. I think responsive is perfectly fine, but if you can do a mobile first approach initially, if you're developing it out, I would definitely go that route, because the more simplified approach, if screens get small, even smaller than they are today, or if something else happens, mobile first will probably still be more useful than some of the other ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, like a lot of people are
Is
searching
that
on
kind
their
of
phones. I mean, that's just the
similar?
reality.
That's what mobile first is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. All right. So here we go. We're kind of tying everything together. We talked about the landing page. We talked about building a website, right? So here's the sales process, and I kind of already said this in other ways, right? You start with an ad that gets you to your landing page. You have your call to action. They become a lead, right? What do you do with the lead to get them to become a customer? That is your sales process, okay? So we can talk about your ad. We can talk about sending people from your ad to your landing page in a way that converts and becomes a lead, right? In terms of your sales process, that's up to you and your market. Usually it's going to be many phone calls, a drip email campaign. It depends if it's a buyer or a seller, right? Keep that in mind, right? Every single ad campaign, every single landing page, every single lead method that you do, you have to categorize who you're targeting, because how you interact with buyers is very different than how you interact with sellers. In fact, right now, with everything going on in the industry, I'm sure most of you only care about trying to get sellers, or at least you care a lot more about it. So think about the differences of what you're saying and how you're going to interact with them based on what kind of customer you're going after. All right. And then we talked about this, building a landing page that actually converts. All right, so we discussed a lot here. We're going to make this available on YouTube for you guys to rewatch. We're going to make it available on our website for you guys to rewatch, so you can do it. But if you're struggling still building a website that works well for you, or getting your IDX, my state does offer those services. So you can go ahead and contact us. You can send us an email. Bruce or I an email, Nick at NY State MLS or at MY State MLS. I'm going to put that in the chat. You can reach out to us. We are definitely happy to help you guys get that website up and running. So at the end of it, just to tie it all up, marketing is getting the right message to the right person at the right time. Okay. So getting the right message depends on your market, but mostly it's all about your call to action. It's all about the verbiage. Getting it to the right customer is all about your advertising itself, and at the right time is that's its own beast. We talk about this slide much more in a digital marketing presentation we actually did in the past. It's available for rewatch on our site and on YouTube. If you have any questions or want to see more about that, we can send you the link directly if you send us an email and let us know you're interested. But we take a deep dive into what the right messaging is, who the right customers are, how to target the right customers, how to make sure you're getting in front of them at the right time, right? All of these things have a lot more that can be said and dived into, and we actually already have. So go ahead and feel free to reach out, and we'll forward you the links and make sure you get more information. And there you go. That is pretty much it. If you have any more questions about digital marketing or about all of the different sales information that we have in the Ask the Experts series, it's available online through our marketing resources on the MyState portal. It's also available on YouTube at mystatemls.com. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? We're getting done about 5 minutes early, but we can go ahead and wrap it up if you guys don't have any questions. So we'll sit here for a second, let any questions come in. Hey, Bruce, your hair looks great today. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I did it for you.
Appreciate it. All right. It looks like there are no questions, so we're going to go ahead and end it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and we hope you learned a lot. And we will see you next month.